Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's show, excuse me, of Beyond the Ordinary. Y'all, today we're going to be joined by Christel Hughes, who, to give y'all a heads up, we're going to do an audio call. Crystal was having issues with her internet speed and being on video, so she's going to call in. So I'm going to turn off my video. We're going to promote. Um, Crystal here as a speaker as we ask her to unmute. Crystal, if you're listening, unmute your microphone. And we're going to dive into today's call and to give you all a heads up about what we'll be talking about today. Um, Crystal is bringing in the holographic high priestess and intuitive. So that's what she's calling her. This is the title that she's taken on and energetically embodying to share from us from that space. And we're speaking about intuition in 7 dimensions, how the holodeck unlocks hidden clair pathways. So we're going to be talking about, again, stepping into the 7D holodeck and what that means. Crystal is going to show you how dormant clair pathways begin holophasing and how synthetic signaling strengthens and provides a coherence that works with your intuitive architecture. We're going to talk about unlocking multidimensional clear pathways and so much more. So I am going to turn off my video here. Let's see if we get Crystal to unmute her microphone. Crystal, let us know that you're here, and we'll get started here in just a second, y'all. Again, we're having a little bit of a technical issues, but we will be on with Crystal in just a minute. In just a minute. Thanks for your patience. And I can't speak today for some reason. God knows why. But I promise I'll catch my words and the energy and we'll get rolling here in just a second. Hello, Lisa Curry from Naples, Florida. You and I need to connect soon. Jean from Northern California. We're still waiting for Crystal to come on. I couldn't get a hold of her. I think she's having technical issues. I'm going to go ahead and put my video back on and we'll see what happens with Crystal here in a second. Um, and how about we get to a place um, where I'll open up from Q&A. Angela, you want to ask Crystal a question? And please, you can raise your hand if she comes on. And we'll definitely take it on. And if there's anything that's in y'all's hearts or something that you want to share, or even a question that you may want to ask me in the meantime, feel free to raise your hand and let's play that way as well. Um, there's a lot that's coming through. I let a membership call this last Monday, and what has been coming through really strongly in the last few weeks is a phase of integration that we have the opportunity to experience and how important it is right now to slow down, to allow things to all the work that you've been doing, all of the shifts in energy, the assimilation of who you have become compared to who you used to be, to allow that to catch up and reset in your nervous system, in your physical body, to allow the integration to happen um, during dream time and sleep time, to nourish your body as best as you can, but not to ignore those places where if there's sugar cravings or salt cravings, that the body may be needing something there and that it's okay um to partake in those things that your body is calling forward. Um, because consciously we're really stepping up energetically, we're really stepping up to places that we're not accustomed to holding. Um, It's it's an expansion that is beyond anything that we've experienced on a permanent level. We may have glimpsed components of it, and that's been part of the phasing period that we have been in as we've been refining a lot of our energetic components. we have been coming to resolution with karma, if you will. And there's new pathways that are being created. And so we're being refined in such a way so that we can carry the strength, the authority, the awareness, the open-heartedness with that in the next phase of our creation. So if there's anywhere in your life that you feel stagnant, like things have gotten slow, like there's something on the other side of it, but it's not quite just standing yet,
Hello.
allow it
Can
to.
you hear
We
me?
can. I'm going to finish my thread, Crystal. Hold on a second.
Okay, finish your
Allow it,
sentence.
allow
Oh
it to
my God.
flow, allow it to flow through, and give yourself the gift of patience and compassion um, for what's unfolding in you. And if you drop into that and really be graceful with that, what you'll experience on the other side is going to be beyond um, perhaps what you even imagined was possible. So keep that faith, keep the belief, um, be encouraged about what's happening, and follow the pathway. I promise you, there's great opportunities open up for all of us. Crystal, oh my God, welcome to the call.
Wow, I made it. I'm so
You.
excited.
Well,
Yes.
Crystal, welcome. And again, I'll introduce you again. So, y'all, Crystal Hughes she's been on the show since the first season we've been on, which is 13 years ago. Um, and every time she comes on the show, it's like another layer, another level of an expansionary awareness that she's bringing through and embodying simultaneously. Um, Today's call, y'all, Crystal is going to be on audio only. I'm going to turn my video off. So it's going to be auditory today, not visual. But I like this for what's coming through in the conversation today, as Crystal is going to be sharing intuition in 7 dimensions and how the holodeck unlocks hidden clair pathways. And so, without further ado, I'm going to turn my video off. And Crystal, welcome to the show. I'm glad that you made it on here.
Thank you so much. Oh my goodness. And it was just as you were saying, John, as I move through these greater expressions of my beingness, then I come and I share about it. And this morning, as I was in meditation, I actually had this whole experience that brought me to tears because there was an instant reflection
Mm,
of, oh my goodness, this is my process being revealed as I'm sharing. And I think that's so important. One of the things when we look at this dimensional awareness, I also want to tap into intuition and how we have been perceiving intuition up until now,
mm,
and how maybe we were looking at it and sensing it and being it from a place that was more linear and more 3D rather than what we're being called to. And if we recognize that we've all had this inner stirring, we've literally all been feeling this greater calling. It's the calling into being a multidimensional sensory revelation.
mm.
And in the experience, we don't know how to handle that most of the time. We
Right.
feel pulled, we feel drawn to one thing, and then, oh, I don't want that after a couple of seconds. No, I want this other thing. And so the reality is that right now, we are being asked to move into a brand new paradigm for what we could say is this sovereign intuitive, to
Mm,
become a conscious architect of your multidimensional reality and to observe the clairs in this kind of holosphere. And so I thought maybe I would share a little bit about my journey in discovering the seventh dimensional holodeck, which has allowed me to actually embody that high priestess nature, and how I've kind of woven this into the dynamic expression of my evolution, and how that has enhanced my purpose in supporting people in discovering their sacred passions, their sacred intuitive gifts, and what this all means.
I would love to hear your experience and your story. Again, I love the way that you gain awareness, embody, and then share from there. And it's so helpful to hear it because it makes it so relatable and accessible.
One of the things, John, is I was sharing with my mom earlier as well today, because I said, oh, I'm going to be on John's. And I said, it was on your show that I first revealed about us turning into a hologram and the relationship of that. And I don't know if you recall that, but your reaction was one that really touched me, because you said, oh my goodness, we've spent all this time learning about the light body and really activating that. And now we have this next expression. But at that time, I didn't quite know exactly how all the puzzle pieces fit together. Mm-hmm. It was so unique in the way that I've transitioned, looking at myself coming from this experience of being a medium and my training as a behaviorist, and also my training as this hypnotherapist, and now understanding after all these years, think about it. In 2008, I created Academy for the Soul, and I started teaching people how to experience their intuition in their unique way as an intuitive science, but also in their specific way that revealed their constitution, their intuitive makeup, their energetic makeup, and that we put emphasis more on what is coming through from where, how it's flowing through them, versus am I intuitive or not? And now we start to see that as we are evolving, we're starting to be intuitives in a new way. We're not looking at ourselves as, oh, I'm intuitive or I'm not intuitive, or I have to look at each clair, like, oh, I'm clairvoyant, but I'm not clairsentient. I'm clairaudient, but I'm not clairgnostic, right? We are starting to understand that it's more of a spatial awareness rather than understanding it as it happens in my body. Now, take that in just for a second, because what I'm saying is we've moved from 3D to 4D to 5D, and I was teaching this through the Academy, the 5D, the golden grid of grace. When we connect to this beautiful structure of the golden grid, we can access beyond time and space. And we would put our clients in the orb, and we would tune in, and we would activate our higher intuitive abilities, and we would do our distant healing. And it was profound. What happened is we started being called to a different identity. We started being called to a dimensional identity. And so what happened? How do we get from the fifth dimension, where we were activating our light body and working on that, and now going to the seventh dimension? How I was called to that seventh dimension wasn't in some profound way. It was that I started putting people on a different structure than the golden grid. I started placing them in a space that was different. And I didn't even know it until I knew it, right? It was like, oh, wow, how are you doing what you do? Well, let me check to see, how do I do this? How do I do intuition? How do I do this multi-sensory, multi-dimensional thing that I do? And what started happening is I started recognizing that I have no attachment to identity, that actually I was looking at an orientation. How am I identifying myself and how am I orientating myself? And so I want to bring up this point because the seventh dimension, we call it the holodeck, as the space, the place, the structure that we would access in order to reveal our capacity. But what happens is that we have identities and we stick to our identities. We identify with our identities, right? I'm a human and I'm on this 3D plane. And, you know, instead of thinking in that way, we then evolve from, oh, I'm a human with a body, to understanding, wow, I'm a human with an aura. And don't we then orientate differently when we think of ourselves as a human with an aura?
Hmm.
And then we become even more spiritual in the sense, this is our brain talking, right? Now we've got a light body, right? And so now we identify as a spiritual being with a light body. And then we start to orient ourselves in life with a light body. But what if we shifted that? And what if we started understanding, wow, we can orient ourselves in such a way and release identity to the degree that we actually become a hologram. And if we identified ourselves as a brilliant hologram that is a reflection of divinity in every moment, how would we orient ourselves in our lives? So this is the contemplation. I just got back from a huge tour. I was with Amma traveling all across Europe, and before that I traveled across the US. And so I started playing with the identity experience. Now, if I'm walking through the airport, and I want you guys to imagine this, imagine walking through the airport and you've got your bags, and just notice how you feel, how you're sensing and how you're seeing if you identify yourself as a human with a body. How are you orienting to people in the airport? Then imagine yourself as a human with an aura. Switch into that. Now you're thinking about, well, who's entering my aura? Ooh, where should I sit? Should I sit over there? Because if I sit over there, I'm going to be next to this person. What are they like? Now I'm profiling, right? I take my identity and I match it, or I find the mismatches of my identity with the engagement of people and places, right? So my orientation changes. Now I go into, oh, I'm a light body, and it expands and it changes again. When I become a light body, maybe the vision changes of my inner reality, of even the experience now of imagining. Maybe I feel and sense and see differently. Maybe I lose my bags, the luggage that I was carrying. Maybe I'm illuminating. Maybe I'm chanting. Maybe I'm activating grids in the airport. Maybe I'm blessing people. How am I orienting myself as a light body? And now imagine yourself as a hologram. And imagine your orientation at a higher dimension. And imagine the influence of the energetic frequencies where the divine is utilizing your hologram in any given moment. Can you release any one identity? What occurs within you? How do you shift? And how do you, as a hologram, if you're in that mode of orientation, how do you understand where you're grounded from that place? And your central point, the central point of orientation. And so get into the feeling tone of this. And John, you tell me, How was that experience for you, going from, okay, I'm a body, to all of a sudden now I'm this hologram? What shifted for you?
Well, immediately there's a lightness of being, like something that, to be honest with you, something that it felt like I was physically holding in my heart had the opportunity to expand.
Mm,
Um, and an awareness. It's like some of the some of the weight of being physical got lighter, if that makes sense.
yeah, yeah.
And it
I
cleared
mean,
and it cleared the field of not having to hold the density in place. It freed something up for my field to go wider.
and each person has a different experience. But the beauty of becoming the hologram and orientating yourself in a different way means that you actually take on a different relational identity,
Hmm.
and you detach from who you are trying to become. You release an identity and a relationship to an object. Now your mind's going to kick in. And what we start to see is that what I'm explaining is that as a hologram, you become omnidirectional. When you allow yourself to switch it up, like it's wild, because your whole reference point of who you are has to dissolve. Now, that's different than saying, oh, I'm dissolving my ego. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about intuition. I'm talking about reference points. I'm talking about orientation. I'm talking about dimensionality, and how that allows you to recognize who you truly are in this frequency bandwidth. And it's very similar to when we're on the holodeck, it's very similar to looking at something in a totally unique way. Let's say that you had a coloring book and what you saw was a picture, an outline of a chicken, right? And what if you rotated that chicken? What if you rotated it just a quarter, right? So you're rotating it a little bit. Now, are you identifying it as a chicken?
Hmm.
If you rotated it again, how would you identify? Do you believe that your being could still relate to that as, well, that's a chicken, that's an outline of a chicken? Or does your mind say, no, because it's not upright, I can't identify it? Do you realize in this seventh dimension, in the holodeck, actually you trust your being to relate to that outline, no matter which way, up, down, sideways, left, right? It wouldn't matter.
Hmm.
So we start to see that your mind might even kick in and say, well, Christel, if it was an outline of a caterpillar, it wouldn't matter if it was upside down or backwards, right? Like, I could get that. My
Right.
brain could get that. So your mind always wants to kick in and change back to a simple reference point and revert back to what's known. But we have to shift that. We have to shift into this spatial awareness like we've never shifted again. Shifted before. So when someone asks me, well, how do you see, sense, feel, know? How do you get to a parallel life experience of a person, a past life, a future experience? How do you understand that, it's the liver that has the issue and what the specific past life is? I'm relating without identity, and I am orientating myself in a way that allows the information to come through.
Hmm.
And so we start to understand that, well, I have to look at everything differently. And I started during this series of, high frequency states where the perceptual field around a person started to behave in a very unusual way, and it was almost architectural. So instead of receiving intuition, I'm standing inside an intelligent scape where the intuitive senses are arranged like stations inside of this quantum chamber. And that chamber was the seventh dimensional sensory environment. It's called the holodeck of consciousness. And this is where the clairs are not gifts. Your clairvoyance is not a gift. It's an operational system. And in these states, you notice something extraordinary, that the subtle senses are not separate abilities. They're interacting holographic modules inside a single multidimensional interface. The holodeck is an interface. So clairvoyance wasn't about vision, clairsentience wasn't about feeling, clairaudience wasn't about hearing. Each one became a frequency band of a larger perceptual organism.
Mm.
And the entire organism responded to a single principle. When the nervous system enters a 7D compatible harmonics, the clairs reorganize themselves into a unified multidimensional sense apparatus. It's like the telepathic apparatus, right? So this was a huge turning point for me. And when I say 7D compatible harmonics, I mean the holodeck. It's aware. If I go to the place, it activates my intuition. So because accessing doesn't mean, oh, it's just intuition. It's a science of perception that already exists beyond the physical dimension. So what you recognize is, instead of humans trying to train for psychic senses one at a time, in the holodeck, we activate because we've approached a unified multidimensional structure. Our architecture becomes obvious. Players are holographic. We're unlocked when the entire harmonic grid is engaged on the holodeck. So if the clairs are holographic, they're not linear, they're not separate, they're not tools, they're not skills, they're not gifts. And what I started seeing even more was that there's these nodes. And so perception was so wild when I started recognizing that most people can accept a certain degree of understanding intuition. Like, for example, as humans, doesn't matter if you're spiritual or not, you would understand if I said, oh, you know, the mother has eyes in the back of her head, right? Like a
Right.
mom has eyes in the back of her head. What are we really saying when we say that? There's an acknowledgement of an expanded sensory capacity. Now, when we go to the next level and we start to understand in the holodeck, I don't just have eyes and my regular eyes, my third eye, my back third eye, you know, I literally have all these insightful little nodes. Imagine thousands of eyes. Imagine it to the point where I dissolve into an all-knowing eye, into an oracle. So when we go into this idea that we can enter into a space, a place, we start to understand that there's a state shifting process and we become the hologram. And during that experience, we're different. There's holographic sensory mapping that takes place. There's multi-clair patterns that are activated. There's 70 perceptual harmonics that are going on. There's dimensional interoception pathways that are happening. It's kind of quantum empathic bandwidth expansion taking place. And so we're a living sensory field, but we have the architecture, again, the constitution. And we start to recognize that we are returning people to this multidimensional environment where their intuition was designed to operate. Can I return you to that place? And can you then sense in this multidimensional way? Yes. So this is what we discovered. And the biohologram is this true interface between your consciousness and the multidimensional reality. And the biohologram comes to fruition when you're placed on the holodeck.
So how do we get to the holodeck, Christel?
Yeah. All right. Like that's what everybody wants to know. Again,
right? How do we get there?
Don't think of it in a linear way, right? Don't think of it in a linear way. But let's say when I'm doing my guided journeys and I'm, I've been doing the holographic hypnotherapy because why? Because I need to shift somebody in the deep subconscious. Mm-hmm. Because I have to shift how they identify with themselves and how they orient. But what if we want to ask a different question from how do we get there? Obviously, I've been doing that for a long time. I use Metatron's Cube and we go through this experience. We get on the 5D and then, and then we transition through a portal. But what if we could leverage that seventh dimension and actually start to focus more in on ourselves as the biohologram? How can we enhance the interface between our consciousness and the multidimensional reality? Because what we start to recognize then is we start to say, okay, what is a biohologram? If I am that, what's inside of that? Inside the field exists this complex architecture, what we just were talking about. And what can we do with that? In other words, how can I arrange myself? How can I orient myself? I want to look through a holographic lens, don't I? Instead of looking through my two eyes. Remember, if we can shift the way we're relating to ourselves with our identity and how we relate to our, human life, something changes. And then what about accessing these kind of crystalline information grids? What happens when we can start to communicate with beings? Because for me, when I started utilizing the holodeck and placing people on the holodeck and becoming omnidirectional and really understanding how that enhanced my oracle being, suddenly I realized, wow, this is something anybody could do. It's not that I have to have advanced training. I have to unlock what's already present there. And so starting to understand that the being started coming to me. When I turned into the oracle being and I related and I started seeing my oracle guides were at the seventh dimension. Okay, I started getting more reflections. These are mirror beings, right? So now I'm getting a reflection of the truth of who I am, but also through the information grids, all of a sudden, I was talking to all these other beings. The Arcturians showed up, the Andromedans showed up. Did you notice I started doing all these activations with all these amazing beings? I started communicating literally with the essence of the stars. That's the possibility that we have, how we can open when we become the hologram. But also, if you were paying attention with the evolution of your own self, your body was pretty much begging you, wasn't it, to be paid attention to evolve. While you're evolving, in your consciousness, your physical body is saying, please don't leave me behind. And we start to understand and look deeply within and say, wow, can we not form this bridge, like in the seventh dimension, even beyond the fifth, where we're doing, literally we're prompting healings that are unexplainable. But are they unexplainable? Because when you go to that seventh dimension, you've got this etheric neural webbing, and you can literally shift your consciousness so quickly. The dynamic energies start to engage with you, and we're not running things through our human brain as much as we are releasing identity of the brain, even while acknowledging it, to enhance the receptors in the brain, how magnetic we are. Again, this is about spatial consciousness. How am I orienting myself? And don't we see that as a reflection in our 3D life? How do the birds know how to get from here to there? How do they orient themselves? What's going on within them that allows for that? And we know that. And what about us? And so we have these frequency specific receptors. So we see that the biohologram starts to become this architecture that processes data at speeds that exceed our biochemical transmission by magnitude. I mean, the clairs operate inside this architecture. They are dimensional translation algorithms, not psychological abilities. So we start to see that in our own lives, the role of the clairs change. What we've been wanting is we've been wanting to become a clairvoyant. We've been wanting to do this, do that. And we teach that, you know, in this framework that clairs are these extrasensory perceptions. In truth, the clairs are these, they're like computational systems, okay? And translation algorithms that decode this multidimensional data into what we can perceive, right? Human perceivable awareness. And so each clair performs a specific decoding function. So we're always asking for the codes. We want the codes from this star family and that one, and we want all these codes, right? What we start to realize is our clairs actually are the brilliant beings. So the clairvoyance translates holographic geometry into visual imagery and symbolic patterning. And our clairaudience decodes dimensional frequency harmonics into this tonal, linguistic, vibrational awareness. Our clairsentience interprets this field state imprints into what we would say the somatic, the emotional, the empathic perception, and our knowing ability actually processes like quantum probability collapses, like what is not necessary for me in this moment, so that it's an instantaneous knowing. It bypasses the sequential logic. So it actually collapses things that are unnecessary. So we start to now look at this. Where we've come to is the algorithms operate through the biohologram, allowing one to read realities outside of linear time. So our biohologram is a light encoded processor, isn't it? It runs your intuitive intelligence. The biological brain, if we just function with that, it's slow, it's brilliant, electrochemical organ. But when we access the biohologram, it's faster than matter as a processor. It's capable of like instantaneous field computation. It's like multi-channel perception. It's holographic data intake and frequency modulation. And it knows what the dimensions are there for, not just for us, because our identity has dropped and we've now recognized ourselves and the impressions that are being made from the cosmos supporting us. Your clairs live in this system. So we want to get into the experience of this. We don't want this minimal bandwidth that creates like the intermittent intuition or some kind of fuzzy impressions or partial guidance. We want to calibrate. And the clairs become these high definition, multidimensional instruments. And that holodeck is a simulation environment that's real. So it helps us stabilize that multi-reality perception. And it amplifies the biohologram. So again, in a strange way, as more we're expansive, but it stabilizes the multi-clair perception. It reduces the noise and distortion, and it activates the dormant translation codes, and it synchronizes those clairs that we hold as beings in this biology that we have, in this organism that we are. It's ideal for us, for our interfaces with galactic alliances and ancestral line transmissions and all of the soul council accesses that we've been wanting, the portals that we've been wanting to access. So it really opens up the inner reality as communication pathways. It makes everything accessible to us. And we have to look at it almost like it's diplomatic, right? There's this feeling of, wow, I'm a diplomat. I'm a cosmic diplomat. And this is the place that we go that will allow us to recognize ourselves as that. So in doing that, then we really start to get in and understand how the clairs appear. They're not separate. And even if we say they're separate, they're not really separate. So there's this kind of synesthesia that we can go into. But I want to give you a chance to share anything that's come through just in explaining this. And I know that you can bring clarity if I've not done a good job explaining it.
No, you're sharing a lot, and it's receiving it. There's just even in what you're sharing, I can feel a calibration, expansion happening simultaneously, similar to the experience I had earlier. There's more that's running through, but talk to us more about and share how we recalibrate our own hologram so that we can
Yeah.
access more of the rational dynamic that we have with our intuition, with these clairs.
Yeah. Because when we again think about this, always hold the context of what's my identity right now and what's my orientation. Right? What's your identity and what's your orientation? Because it's like giving you clues in how you're perceiving in that moment. So if we can shift that, and I'm going to share with you, start to really understand in 3D, clairs feel separated. And even again at the 5D, we start to say, wow, each clair is a being that we can engage with. Beyond that, in the higher dimensions, the clairs function as one integrated perception system. I want you to really think of them as vibrational frequency that make up a whole spectrum. And so we start to get the sense that if I'm looking at a rainbow, can I talk about the yellow frequency band? So the band of yellow, the band of green, the band of blue. Yes. But is it really separate from the rainbow? Right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's so important for us to shift our identity, because in the 3D, we just go, wow, look at the rainbow. What if we became the hologram inside of the rainbow? That's what I'm asking you to do.
Right.
That's what I'm asking you to do. What would happen? I mean, you can close your eyes right now. Imagine, remember the last rainbow you saw, or a picture of a rainbow that was stunning. It captured you. And remember how you identified to it. Not with it, but I'm asking you to identify with it. I want you to now turn into a hologram. I want you to imagine floating into the rainbow. Adjust your orientation. Taste the blue. Smell the green. Feel the orange. What is so brilliant about this is that when we activate as this hologram, simultaneously we start to get a sense that the clairs can generate so much, like literally emotional regulation. So if we're dysregulated, we can come back into that experience of regulation. We have access to our emotions. We have intuitive stability. We have dimensional balance. We have hyper clarity. And also we have access, timeline coherency. We allow ourselves to synthesize with the clairs. And that is the advanced consciousness that we've been seeking. So the holodeck environment entrains you, and you're able then to maintain that unity field. And it's wild because suddenly then we have these dimensional anchors. Once we perceive reality and we change that to being a part of engineering it, wow. Wow. You're engineering reality, not just perceiving it. So with our old model, we wanted to perceive. But now what if we become the architects of it and we start to engineer? We start to recognize the power of that, and the clairs evolve into tools. We can lock into chosen realities. We can select timelines to tap into. We can really start to manifest in new ways. And we can influence probability pathways and lines. We drop paradigms. And we start to come into this capacity to maintain coherence like never before, especially during dimensional shifts. And so it's not really manifestation. It's more of like dimensional engineering. So each clair has this multiple bandwidth frequency. They're not an off or on. It's not like I'm not this, I am that. And I want to say something about this frequency spectrum, because what I've started to recognize is that we have within the clair, depending on our identity and our orientation, we are engaging with the lower band frequency, which would mean we're having kind of faint impressions. We can go in even to like a mid-band frequency where we would say, okay, I'm recognizing images, I'm recognizing sounds and sensations. Then we go to a high band access where we start to layer multidimensional data. So when we're at that place and we're layering multidimensional data, remember, it's not coming through our brain. It's engaging with our hologram. And then we get to ultraband, which is like this instantaneous knowing. Once we practice this, I'm the hologram. I'm engaging as a hologram. Why not? Why not be able to have instantaneous knowing? Everything becomes richer and more layered and more accurate. And so it's really about expanding into the spectrum, not, I'm going to acquire this ability. So hopefully this is really starting to, I want to blow your mind, right? Like I need to just blow everyone's mind. You might be following me, you might not, because the mind is going to want to have you what? Go back to identity of what you know. It's going to have you want to orientate to something. What have you identified as? I want to change that. I want you to shift that. I want you to move into the sovereign intelligence. That's because this is how you were designed. You were designed this way. And so let's start to detect that truth signature within you, a frequency pattern, and the authenticity, and allow you to align in that way for discernment so that you're really navigating reality with the sovereignty. So if you look at that kind of clear synthesis principle, you start to see that your clairs actually activate when they activate together. This isn't one, then the other, then the other, then the other. Right? So people try to develop clairvoyance separately from clairaudience, clairsentience separately from their knowing capacity. But that's like approaching intuition like isolated muscles we have to work on. Let's start to really take on what we know is true. Seventh dimensional holodeck field. Intuitive perception is not divided. The clairs are not different abilities. They're frequency bands of a single unified multidimensional sensory organ. Now, when we're on the grid, that is a harmonic grid on the holodeck, when that's engaged, everything switches on. Everything's switching on. They activate in unison because they exist as one organism. So we're now starting to access a shared field. And wow, like what emerges? This meta-sensory interface. Okay, so this is why we have experienced even in society this identity shift, and that each one is questioning what their identity is. Now they're labeling it, right? They're labeling their identity now, but we're getting rid of identity. And the faster we allow ourselves to clear that, I have to be identified in this one way or that way or the other. The reality is that we want to come into oneness within ourselves, but we are also in oneness with everybody else. And so acting, observing, sensing as the hologram really takes us to that level of unity. But what I also want to say is, with this idea of, one clair versus the other, this one activates on its own, separate from the other. The system destabilizes when we see the clairs in that way. When all are signaled together, the entire mechanism lights up. And that explains to us why we have these kind of psychic hot and cold experiences. Because if we're partially active, then clarity just kind of flickers in and out. But when we synchronize and perception is holographic, everything becomes consistent. It actually becomes efficient and it becomes orderly. And we don't get the hot and cold. There's no time that my intuition isn't on, right? Because
Mhm.
that's old terminology. So I'm amplified in my hologram. I'm resonating and identifying and orienting to the holodeck versus, okay, I'm bringing that experience to planet Earth and I'm grounding in a different way. When I view myself as the body, how do I ground? Oh, I imagine roots going down into the earth. When I ground as an aura, oh, I connect from the center of my heart, ground below, center of my heart, ground into the cosmic core above. When I'm a hologram, how do I ground? I mean, we're talking about being pretty out there, right? You can hear it in the way I speak. It's a different vibration I'm bringing than anything that I've ever brought before. That doesn't mean it's not practical. And if we want to be the hologram, we don't want to just be floating in the higher dimensions all the time, trying to interact with other beings or activate things, right? And so what we found is that we actually can go deeper into our own core. We go deeper into our own core. When you go through that portal in your own core, you ground. You're not tethered to something. You're not imagining yourself tethered to something. It becomes a state of being grounded. And so I can be grounded and I can be a hologram all at the same time, absolutely free,
Hmm.
but still holding the capacity to utilize every organ in my body, every system in my body, to learn how to utilize my brain in a way that is based in truth. So our nervous system becomes, it's it's like it enters this harmonic state and it reorganizes perception into what we would think of as like nonlinear reception.
Hmm.
And that's what we're searching for, is like seeing, sensing, feeling in a whole system sensory induction. We're it. We've gone through our initiation. We don't need to question our intuition anymore. We don't need to question our abilities anymore. It's a new paradigm. And all of our words and everything we've been using is because this is what we're being called to.
I really appreciate what you're sharing, Crystal. And this is a point where, we always talk about spirituality and science catching up with spirituality or mysticism. But the opposite is true
Yeah,
also. It's where spirituality is actually catching up with technology as well, and accessing, and we're merging that in
yeah,
these beautiful awareness and ability to perceive that is beyond what was just considered in the woo space because we didn't have the proper terminology or the feedback loop to
yeah.
really give it the full spectrum of what was being demonstrated. And here you're merging both of those for us so that we can actually utilize it as an intelligence system that we absolutely have access to.
Yeah, it's non-local. Think of
Right.
the holodeck
Yeah.
like a non-local perception zone. You access it for dimensional data, for symbols, for your ancestors, for your guides, for quantum probabilities. You access it for information, for truth.
Hmm.
Everything is available. It's there. It's living. It's breathing. It's ready to engage with you.
So I have a personal question for you.
Yeah.
What has altered for you as once you became aware that this was happening for you? What has shifted in your daily experiences, in your personal life, in your relationship with others?
There's no becoming something,
Mm.
right? Like I'm not reaching for anything. I'm not wishing, hoping. There's no sense of I have to get to a certain place. I have to
Right.
achieve a certain thing. Am I achieving? Yes. But how I'm showing up with this new orientation of self, I am presencing so much that there is no stress for me. There's no personal attainment. There's nothing that I have to get to, reach, become, manifest, right? It's more of playing in the field and recognizing when I'm getting the prompts of creation.
Mhm.
When I was traveling, I was so available. I was available to the new vision being born through me. But it wasn't like I'm sitting down and writing things out and looking to my past identity to inform my future. I'm literally becoming a hologram. So I'm in the observation and I'm here sharing it with you now. Literally. This
Mm.
came through me. All of this. Do you realize I wrote 70 pages on this topic?
Wow.
I can't share 70 pages of information, but 70 pages, that is wild. It's it's an outpouring. It's what we would think of downloading. And so I don't resonate so much as just a biological brain
Mm.
processing data or even processing intuition. There's a depth of honoring the body like I've never honored it before. There's self care that is priority for me. Well,
Mm.
because I even reached out to your team and said, hey, like I'm going to be flying back. Can we make it this date instead of that
Mm.
date? Right? That that is honoring. That is honoring. So beyond that, it is the wild nature of truth coming through you that you are in the experience. There's no questioning. There's no questioning. It becomes real. Everything is very real.
Mhm.
So your soul is there with you on the holodeck. It's not your ego. You're not, run by ego. You're run by your higher consciousness. You're synchronized with your original soul agreement. You have these amazing agreements. I've agreed to share this information. What I could have pushed to the side and just said, oh, well, I'm not going to share this. This is just my experience. No, I bring it out. And so aligning with your truth field, because your ego can't force open intuitive pathways, right?
Right.
But
No,
also living in this new paradigm, your fear can't shut it down either.
agreed. Agreed. The technology, it can't supersede the awareness. Like once you make it aware, it just says you cannot not be it. once it's there and once you have
Right.
access to. Um,
That's
and
right.
and so I think this is really wonderful. Y'all, I want to invite y'all to follow along with the special offer because there's so much here that Christel is bringing to the table and really strengthening, becoming aware of, relating to, creating with,
Mm,
stabilizing, and then expanding from that stabilization place as we as we learn to not only hold the field more stable there, but j- just how accessible it is once we allow the organic nature of it rather than trying to get the mind to get there so that we can
mm,
access something in a particular cupboard and then put it away. It's not something we put away, it's something that's there all the time. Um,
yeah.
and so what Crystal's put together for us here and what she's sharing in the special offer, y'all, this is like next level understanding and awareness. And I feel the freedom that this engenders in so many different ways. So, the link for the special offer, it's in the chat box. It's underneath the video page where you're listening to the call from today. There's a special offer button that you can access there. Or you can always access the special offers on beyondtheordinaryshow.com/marketplace. And Christel, take us through the process or the stages that you're setting up through these different pillars for this God amazing special offer that you put together for us.
It's important for us to allow ourselves to play, to start to understand, feel, sense, whatever we want to do in life. It's important for us to play in the higher dimension and to experience things in multiple ways. You'll see that what we've brought forward here, there's different levels of engagement, and some of that is one-on-one. Some of that is you on your own, right? Going through processes and in Zoom calls and videos that I've made. And some of that is remote because, people, when, they go, oh, I didn't know it was a remote activation. I wanted to be on live with you. I wanted to be on a Zoom with you. The reality is that actually detracts a lot from the experience that you can have with yourself. The process, the feeling tone, the vibrational frequency, the accessing of that, what it means to you, the deciphering of that, all of that is so important. And so that's why I have the experience of you on the holodeck in a remote way. So I want to just preface that because so many people, they're so identified with how they think they learn and grow and what's going to bring them the best experience, right? They have preferences.
Mm.
But this is downloaded. This is the way that we're meant to do this. I also want to preface it by saying, watch out that you don't think that you're not advanced enough. You're identifying yourself as a newbie, right? John, you know that. So many people, it's like, oh, but I'm a newbie. This is too advanced for me.
Oh yeah.
It's not too advanced for your soul.
Mm-hmm.
Your soul brought you here.
Well, and
And you're hearing this.
I really
Yeah.
feel that's been part of the phase of this particular year also is that there's really a calling into honoring and recognizing our personal evolution and where we've grown to compared to where we used to be, and to not play
Yeah.
small it in anymore. It's we're really being called an up and forward, and for good reasons because we have access to this awareness and this intelligence that we can start incorporating in our lives. And when we incorporate this in our lives, our world changes. If our world changes, our outside world changes. The outside world changes, the world in which we want to show up to service and in vitality and in the awe and wonder of it becomes a possibility of our creation.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us more about what you've put together here for us in this particular offer, Christel.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's important for us to be together, to be in this experience, and to really start to play in the dynamic frequencies. So we're going to do 3 live master classes, and we're moving through these 7 pillars. And I want everybody to actually look at the 7 pillars. I won't have time to go through each one of them.
Mm.
But the master classes, this is where we're going to satisfy your brain. This is where I'm teaching. I have to share the concepts, right? It's like I've done this little sweeping view, like a fast kind of panoramic view. But we need to actually go deep into the journey. Your mind is going to start to understand, okay, wow, this is what the context is. This is what I'm understanding. And it's everything as really looking at like the clairs and again, how they're dimensional translation algorithms. And then how we start to work with the hologram, how we feel ourselves as this luminous field. It's receiving, it's interpreting, it's transmitting. And I need to have you really start to play with that in your life. Because again, the way you relate to your environment is going to shift. Remind me, John, if you can, about the life force units, because you were talking about bringing it into the physical and the vitality and all that. Mm-hmm. And that's really a part of this. Okay, so don't think that this, again, is so far out there. This is about you becoming sovereign, and the old paradigm has kept you locked in an identity and has had you oriented in a certain way in your life. And we've got to shift that. So we're going to focus on these pillars and go through them. But as we do these, we are going to be activating you on the holodeck at each turn. So I'm literally going to be doing activations of everything you're seeing of every pillar. So I'll explain it to you in the master classes, and then I'll simultaneously lay it out. I'll be literally doing the remote activations with your hologram. So this is one of the things that I just love, because if you could understand a little bit more about how I do this in real time, I'm literally tapping into your hologram while you're on the holodeck. Now, suddenly I can see everything about you, but we always put context and structure around it. So it's not just like, oh, I'm going to go in and I'm just, willy-nilly doing this or doing that. I have to focus in on the specifics. So for every pillar, I'm looking at your hologram on the holodeck, and I'm engaging with Metatron's cube, which is my tool, if you will. Now, Metatron's cube is absolutely fascinating, and it can support the adjustments being made, and these are what we call the holophasings. So when we do the holophasings, they're like micro attunements to your hologram. And so I'm going to literally be doing 7 remote, what you would think of as activations, but in my verbiage, it's holophasing recalibration. And for each one, we're focusing in on whatever the pillar is, and it's very specifically attuned to you. It's one-on-one on that holodeck. I'm going to be working with your energy, but mostly I'm calling forth the dynamic beings that you had the soul agreements with during this time, because we've all incarnated in, multiple incarnations. And at any given time, we call forth these beautiful beings from the star systems that were related to you in that lifetime. And each one of them specifically supports you in your unique way. I find that out when I'm there because that's who shows up. So we work with your higher self and we work with the beings and we start to make these holophasing recalibrations. Now, when we go through that, so we've got the master classes, we do the remote holophasing recalibrations. That's remote. Again, that doesn't mean that I don't have a specific time. I'm going to have a specific time set, but that just means that we don't need to be on a video call or a phone call, right? And so it's going to happen whether you're able to sit in meditation or not. I haven't gotten yet, and we'll see if there's any additional information that comes through. If I need to add that, I'll be open to it, you guys, okay? But what we want to look at as well is the live component of this. Because what we start to see is with this moment that we have where we can all bring our holograms together in circle, we're doing a live energy lab in group. And I'm going to go person by person, and I'm going to be able to do the micro adjustments to your hologram. So I can literally put you on the holodeck, tune in, and check you. We can check to see, is there anything your higher self is really saying? Wow, we want to make this adjustment. We want to shift that. We need to attune this to a specific frequency. Whatever it might be, we're going to align you. And again, I want you to think about coming into coherence. So it's attuning you and coming into the coherent field that will allow you to recognize and identify yourself as this multidimensional being, okay? And it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. So that is what we're doing now. Part of this as well is I need you to have a foundation, and that's why I'm saying so many benefits of doing this, but it's important, isn't it, for you to already have a certain level of understanding of what happens in your body when you're activating the clairvoyant frequency. Mm-hmm. And so what I have put in, and this is like, what? I'm sure people are going to, what are you doing? But in Academy for the Soul Level 2, okay, now imagine this is like a 10-month program, just Academy Level 2. When people were in the Academy going through it, it was multiple years of working with me. In Level 2, we did what we called the magic of your clairs. And these are Zoom real-time, beautiful experiences I took people through. It's foundational information for stimulating your intuitive channels. We didn't get to talk a lot about that, John, about the portals, and all of that. But what they get is in each video, you're going to be taken through as if you were there. You're going to be taken through the stimulation processes of each of the clairs, and you're going to get to watch these. This is from my classes, from my Level 2 students. Nobody's ever seen these besides the students that were there. Okay? So this is really special, but I was told to do this because some of you are already so far advanced and you have no idea that you really are that advanced. You keep downplaying who you are and who you are for this world. And so the magic of your clairs, the videos there, we go through each clair, we go through the central channel as well, which is all about flow. Now, in those, you're going to hear me talking and you're going to say, wow, some of this is the old verbiage, right, from the old paradigm. But I'm telling you, the stimulation exercises are amazing. and you'll feel it. You'll sense it right away, the shifts and changes. So that will be your foundation. Okay? So you'll have that immediately. You'll get to go through those and pace yourself with that, right? Pace yourself, do those exercises, and then we'll begin with the master classes. So you'll be learning, and then you'll be experiencing the holophasing recalibrations on the holodeck. And you'll see, look at this, we're really taking care of you. We're really taking care of you with this. And I want you to know that you're going to be with a group, right? John, we already had people sign up.
Yeah, I know. Before the call started, they were signing up.
We already almost have a full group, right? Seriously. So we want to keep the energy labs quite small because I'm literally going to be on there with you doing these micro attunements and adjustments in real time. So I want you to think about how this is going to awaken your clairs as these translation algorithms. It's going to be more frequency based. It's going to be more vibrationally based. We're training you in the biohologram, right? Instead of using your brain and your old identity, but you're going to still be able to bring that hologram experience to orient yourself in your current environment. But it's going to be that you acknowledge a greater gifting, okay? We're reactivating your dimensional interfaces. We're really establishing your clair coherence. So what happens is when the clairs synthesize and they activate all together on the holodeck, they literally talk to one another. So instead of this old mental low level feedback loop that people get stuck in with their brain, right? I'm not good enough. I didn't do that right. I didn't say the right thing, whatever insecurities that, the mind brings up. We are now activating a feedback loop that is all based in your clairs and the level of coherence that you can have, and expanding your clair frequency spectrum. So you literally become a carrier, if you will, of the frequency spectrum of the cosmos as a diplomat, right? And you start to really honor how tapped in you are to truth fields and being able to utilize that. So I want you to think of that intuition as a technology and really start to understand this is a whole new paradigm that you and I were going hand in hand. We're literally going through this together. It's so brilliant. And we are not leaving out your brain. We're upgrading it. We're starting to look at it in its etheric nature, right? And really understanding how it needs to handle the vibrational frequencies coming through. Now, I'm highly, highly sensitive. And in working with the holodeck, it's only healed my nervous system issues. It doesn't exacerbate that. And that's important for you guys to know because we're all highly sensitive. So I want you to get the sense of what this is, how you're going to be supported, how you're going to be held, and just how this is going to shift your whole perception of who you are, the offerings that you bring. Each of the pillars is going to literally open your whole reality to a new way of being with yourself and with those that you love. Most importantly, I think it's really about how you perceive yourself in the field of the wholeness. And instead of just identifying as, oh, I'm a human and I have a purpose, or I'm trying to activate spiritual gifts, that you really start to understand you are the gift. You're absolutely the gift. You're the gift now, not in the future. Everything is happening here simultaneously now. And so we're just going to really leverage the energy and the frequency of the place we need to be so that everything comes online and is lit up simultaneously. Okay.
So, Christel, when are these classes taking place?
I know it's always the when, right? You know, this isn't going to be probably for, I would say, a couple weeks, right? So you're going to have the videos, you can watch those. Whatever I'm prompted to offer you, there's other things in here, not everything is on the page. There's other things that you're going to orient and understand a little bit more about the holodeck just initially. But I think within the next 3 weeks, I would say this is going to begin. Obviously, when you sign up, it begins.
Hmm.
Your own being is going to start to relate differently to the world. The holodeck is calling you. Otherwise, you're not going to sign up. But yeah, this is the seventh dimension. It's going to start to call you to it.
Hmm. Yeah, it's quite profound. And Madeline is asking if they're going to be video calls when you do have the calls, or is it going to be audio only like this call today?
It's audio. It's audio for the master classes. Again, from my perspective and what I've sensed is the video can distract. The video can distract. And what we want is we want to be taken to a whole other different realm. The master classes, yes, they're more obviously of the left brain, right? Because I'm going to be training and I'm going to be teaching. But I want you to be able to focus and to go in. So again, let preferences go, everybody, if you have preferences. I want you to be able to feel. Some people say, well, I don't feel as included or I don't feel as close. But let's change that. Again, that's how you're identifying. And I need you to identify in a holographic way. So we're all one.
Hmm.
And so
So,
there's no this place or that place. When you're on the holodeck, you're engaging in the allness. Okay.
so, Crystal, let me ask you this, because there's some questions that are coming in through the chat, and they're specific about particular outcomes or desires, and I respect the questions that are coming in, and so much compassion, and we can go more directly into the specific, but really from this place that you're talking about, the specifics like manifesting a soulmate, landing a particular job, this direct opportunity, this is really beyond that. But once we get to that place beyond that, what shows up in articulation of the awareness of that intuitive capacity that's integrated demonstrate what becomes available and aligns our cohesive resonance with a match for what is being created. Is that true?
If you're on the holodeck, imagine what you have access to.
Right, right.
Um, I mean, this is again, we've done such a good job getting to that fifth dimension, no time space reality, activating the light body, but we're now going to another translation,
Hmm.
right? It's a translation field. And so what we start to see is that all of those things are possible. I look at my own life. I look at my own life experience. And if you have followed me at all over my dynamic evolution, what you have found is that I'm more in rhythm with a creative frequency. And at
Hmm.
every turn, when I allow that creative frequency to bring to me what the divine wants to create through me, and I engage with that energy and I follow through on what my directives are, I'm living a beautiful life because there's no regret.
Well, and you're not looking for something outside of you to make you whole. You recognize the wholeness, and then you're in a different relationship with creation from that place.
you literally are orienting to the fullness and the allness and the wholeness. So your vibrational
Mhm.
frequency becomes such that you draw in. I mean, oh my gosh, I wish I could tell you a story, but if I told you the story, then my mom's Christmas gift would be exposed. And I think she's
Well, we won't
listening
go
to
there
the
right now,
call.
but for next time,
But
next time.
anyway, what I want to say is if you even could like recognize the amount of synchronicity of how things are drawn and magnetized, it's not just this person or that person or the job or the da 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 da. You become the job. You
Hmm.
become the soulmate. Now, when you step into it, like think again, become the hologram, step into the rainbow, become the rainbow. If I said, oh, I want to see the dolphin, I become the dolphin. Not in the old paradigm of manifestation becoming the dolphin. Get on the holodeck and try it,
Hmm.
right? Become the hologram of that which you're desiring. So, we're using different terminology because we have to.
Right.
It's so unique. It's so different than what we've known. And what does the mind want to do? It wants to go to what we've known, but we're not doing that anymore. We're
Hmm.
not linear like that anymore.
No, no,
Oh, everything.
we've refined that space. What we're doing
Yeah.
is we're practicing the awareness that we're out of that. So we're still a lot of us are still catching up in different ways. Realizing, wait, hold on a second, we're not creating from the past. We're not creating from what we believed we were or taught that we were. And so the refinement in that, and then just, if you will, throwing us into the deep end of the pool, knowing that we can swim so beautifully already into it,
Yeah. Yeah.
shifts the whole reality
Yeah.
around it.
Yeah.
This is amazing. Y'all, the special offer, it's extremely rare for me to bring in a special offer at this price point. And I know what Christel is offering here. It's already significantly discount for the way that Christel teaches and shows up. But this is something that I feel is just so valuable and really a service that is going to advance your awareness of what you actually already understand. But like Crystal has shared so many times, we're just not giving ourselves the credit. We're in different ways dumbing ourselves down for whatever reason.
Mm.
Um,
Wow.
and it's not intentional, it's innocent. And so said with a lot of compassion and awareness. But it's also a calling to step up into what you have access to. If you can hit a 90-mile-an-hour fastball, why would you step into the 20-mile-an-hour softball pitch? It's no fun.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all are ready for the fastball and so much more. So I hope y'all drop in and take advantage of it. And I hope at the very least that today's conversation and awareness and what Crystal is activating within us is giving you enough of a paradigm to activate something within you now. So this is extraordinary. Again, y'all, the special offer, the link for the special offer is underneath the page where you're listening to the call from today. You can always access it in the marketplace as well, beyondtheordinaryshow.com/marketplace. And of course, we're going to run the replay of today's call for the rest of the weekend. Replays as we go into encores next week will be available as well. So we'll look for the replays there. Um, Crystal, what is one last thing that you'd like to share in order to ground in this? Oh my God, this influx of energy and transmission that you're giving it to us today.
I would say let's shift intuition out of the personal realm
Mm,
and really bring it in like the places that you're engaging with it. It is the interdimensional governance your soul already participates in. So I want you to think of it as a restoration of your cosmic role.
mm.
not as expansion of your human abilities. Your intuition isn't about reading energy. It's about fulfilling your multidimensional cosmic role,
Hmm.
your agreement. And you want to be in awe of yourself,
Hmm. God, yes.
right? Let's do
Yes.
that. Let's be in awe, and just feel that profound sense of remembering
Hmm.
here.
Amazing. Amazing. Christel, thank you so much um, for bringing this forward and for trusting and knowing of our capacity to assimilate and to begin to thrive with these awarenesses.
Mm. Yeah, you're welcome.
It is
Thank
profound.
you,
It's profound.
everyone.
What a great call. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Thank you all for being on here today, for listening, dropping in. I can feel y'all. Um, yeah, and I'm excited about what may be coming through as again y'all go deeper into this and become more self-aware and carry this knowledge, this intelligence forward. So grateful. So grateful. I love you all. Thank you all for being here. Christel, thank you for everything that you do. Send you so much love and happy holidays, everybody. I'll look forward to seeing those of y'all that are going to join us tomorrow on the call. Have a great evening.